Welcome to part 3 of SPAN's 3-part workshop series titled, What Every Parent Needs to Know About Early Reading. SPAN's mission is to empower and support families and inform and involve professionals interested in the healthy development and education of children and youth. The New Jersey Tiered System of Supports for Early Reading project at SPAN focuses on increasing understanding of science-based reading instruction and intervention so that families can better partner with their children's teachers. NJTSS is a partnership between the New Jersey Department of Education and SPAN Parent Advocacy Network. At our first 2 sessions, we learned about the New Jersey Tiered System of Supports Early Reading, or NJTSS framework that builds on New Jersey's current intervention and referral services regulations, calling for the conscious coordination of all district and school level supports to specifically target the early reading needs of all students, including those with disabilities who receive their reading interventions through an IEP, an individualized education program. A quick review. NJTSS is a framework of tiered early reading supports that rely on a continuous cycle of data-informed instructional decision-making, in which early reading proficiency data is collected for all kindergarten through 3rd grade students through the administration of a universal screening assessment. These data are then used to determine the extent to which core reading instruction in Tier 1 in the general education classroom is enabling all students to meet grade level benchmark expectations, and to identify which students may benefit from additional Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention supports to close skill gaps. Students who are shown to be meeting grade level benchmark expectations on the universal screening will continue to receive Tier 1 core reading instruction with their progress monitored through ongoing curriculum embedded assessments that check for growth in grade level skill mastery. For students who did not reach benchmark expectations on universal screening, early reading indicators, diagnostic skill inventories are administered to determine which specific skills to target for their intervention. With these data, supplementary interventions are planned and implemented, and ongoing progress monitoring assessments are administered to determine student progress towards individual goals and the overall effectiveness of the intervention. In our sessions, we met and have been following first grader Tariq and his family's journey through his school's NJTSS supports. Specifically, we discussed what his family learned about his school's approach to universal screening. If you missed our first session, we recommend you watch the recording to learn more about this essential component of early reading assessment. Tariq's universal screening showed that even though he was receiving research-based early reading instruction in Tier 1, he was not yet meeting grade-level benchmark expectations in the area of phonics and early decoding skills. In Session 2, we discussed what his family learned about research-based early reading instruction. If you missed that session, we recommend you watch the recording to learn more about the simple view of reading and Scarborough's reading rope. Looking at the rope graphic shown here, we know from Tariq's universal screening data that he needed supplemental supports to close the gaps in his word recognition skill development before they got too pronounced. Word recognition skills are highlighted here by the red box. The bottom strands of the rope represent phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition skills. To determine which specific word recognition skills needed to be targeted in Tariq's intervention, his school administered a phonics diagnostic inventory, and the results there showed that he needed to build stronger letter sound correspondence knowledge. He needed some extra time and extra support in learning and using letter sound correspondences for reading and spelling words. Specifically, he needed support in decoding and spelling words with consonant blends and consonant digraphs. Based on this diagnostic data and his specific needs, Tariq was placed in a group with 2 other classmates with very similar skill needs for a Tier 2 small group intervention. Before intervention instruction began, intervention goals were established that identified the short-term targets that he needed to meet during the intervention cycle to get caught up. Typically, intervention cycles in schools run somewhere between 10 to 14 weeks. These short-term targets are called intervention goals, and they are aligned with the intervention focus of Tariq's small group. There are 2 types of goals established in a student's intervention plan to monitor their progress: skill-specific mastery goals and general outcome measure goals. Let's learn more about them. First, skill-specific mastery goals usually specify short-term targets for a student's performance related to the specific skills that are the focus of their intervention. So for Tariq, it would be reading and spelling words with those consonant digraphs and blends. These very specific skill goals are used by Tariq's interventionist to inform ongoing intervention lesson planning and are typically established based on a mastery criteria, such as 90% accuracy or maybe a student responding correctly to tasks 9 out of 10 times. Progress monitoring assessments used to monitor these types of skill-specific mastery goals inform next steps in intervention by determining students' understanding of daily learning, and they are used to inform instructional planning on a regular basis. So look at the examples shown here. These represent short measures tied to the specific skills being taught in Tariq's intervention, and they look like brief lists of words that Tariq is to decode, or an end of the week or end of the unit spelling dictation assessment. It's a way for the interventionist working with Tariq to keep track of his skill development. Once targeted skills are identified and the mastery criteria and timing of progress monitoring within the intervention cycle is considered by the team, all this information is used to draft a SMART goal for the individual student or for the student's intervention group as a whole. For example, considering that Tariq will be grouped with other students with very similar skill needs, his skill-specific goal will be the same as the other students in his group, and it may look something like this. By January 8th, Tariq will demonstrate mastery reading and spelling words with consonant digraphs, consonant blends, and vowel consonant silent E patterns by achieving scores of 90% correct or higher on all curriculum-based Level 1 unit assessments. SMART goals are specific. Tariq will demonstrate mastery reading and spelling words with consonant digraphs, consonant blends, and vowel consonant silent E patterns. They are measurable. He'll do this by achieving a score of 90% correct or higher. They are achievable and relevant because they are directly related to both Tariq's skill needs and the current skills being focused on during his intervention. And they are time-bound. In this case, January 8th marks the end of the intervention period during which the intervention plans for explicit instruction in those consonant digraphs, consonant blends, and vowel consonant silent E patterns will be delivered. Throughout the intervention cycle, these skill-specific mastery goals may need to be modified as skills are acquired and new skill needs are identified to help Tariq, a first grader, close any additional first grade reading skill gaps. In contrast, general outcome measure goals are used to establish criteria for determining students' overall response to the intervention being delivered. Typically, these are measured against grade level skill expectations. These goals are used to ensure that the specific skills being learned are actually translating into an overall improvement in Tariq's general reading ability. General outcome measure probes are typically probes aligned with the Universal Screening Assessment tool. They are used repeatedly over time to measure students' progress toward grade level benchmark expectations. Once the progress monitoring probe that aligns with the student's skill area need is identified, the next benchmark expectation criterion can be used to draft the general outcome measure goal. For example, specifically, Tariq will demonstrate grade level phonics and decoding skills by achieving a score of 14 words recoded correctly or higher on the DIBELS 8 first grade nonsense word fluency progress monitoring probe by January 8th, the end of the intervention cycle. Over time, progress monitoring data will be collected weekly or bi-weekly and plotted on a graph that shows Tariq's goal line and his rate of improvement in making growth towards his intervention goal. This brings us to the end of our presentation. The National Center for Improving Literacy has a few infographics that can be helpful for further understanding data-based intervention planning. These infographics are available in the resource folder accompanying this video recording. On the left side, here's another infographic called Inspect the Manual, Instruction and Intervention, with tips from the National Center on Improving Literacy on how to talk to your child's school about literacy instruction and intervention and how they are matched to your child's literacy needs. This resource will also be shared in the folder. Based on this infographic, we have prepared 3 questions that may be helpful as a parent seeking to communicate with your child's teacher about intervention planning. What are my child's specific skill needs, and how will they be addressed during intervention? What are my child's intervention goals, and how will they be progress monitored? And finally, how will I be notified of my child's ongoing progress and intervention planning? Thank you for tuning into this session. We hope it was informative. Educators, please check out the resources available at NJTSS ER. And families, please check out the NJTSS ER resources available for you through SPAN.